Hello guys, Nat Blue here, and today I wanted to talk about my first ever D&D character, Jeffrey. So this will probably be part of a series of me going over characters I've already played and just talking about them for a moment. So, starting off with Jeffrey. Jeffrey was a human fighter. I had never played D&D before. I had always wanted to growing up, but I didn't have a group of friends that was actively playing D&D. And I didn't have the money to look into like the rule books and stuff like that growing up. I was asked to be part of a D&D campaign that my friend was involved in, and they were starting a brand new campaign and told me to pick a character. After reading a bunch of stuff about best characters to play as a beginner, I went very basic with it and played a human fighter. Not only a human fighter, a human champion fighter, because the Battle Master seemed too complicated to me, if I'm being completely honest. So I played a human champion fighter. Initially, Jeffrey didn't have a lot going for him character-wise. Jeffrey, his entire backstory was that he was a little bit of a psychopath that just enjoyed fighting, and he had been kicked out of the military for war crimes. In that backstory, I didn't specify what war crimes meant. And the DM even said that my backstory might have been a little bit too simple at the time. So, Jeffrey's entire character for a decent portion of this campaign was just that he was a violent guy who enjoyed being violent. And it got stale very fast. Now, a couple of other key things with Jeffrey. He wore a signet ring on his right hand, and nobody knew why. It wasn't something that was disclosed or anything. And he was terrified of gnomes. And he was terrified of gnomes for a couple of reasons. The first one being, they're known to be tricksters. And he didn't want to have a prank pulled on him by a gnome. Secondly, they are very small, so he thought they would easily be able to sneak up on him, and he didn't want that either. So Jeffrey was terrified of gnomes. There was a point in the campaign where we got a magic mansion, and Jeffrey had to customize his room. And he didn't have many requirements for his room. Pretty much it was a blank room with a bedroll in it. The only specific thing that Jeffrey asked for was that the doorknob to his room was tall enough that a gnome couldn't reach it. Like, he was probably reaching up shoulder height to open this door, and he was like 6 feet tall. So Jeffrey just really did not want gnomes getting into his room. And I loved that for him. It got to the point where anytime they encountered a gnome in the campaign, he would yell at them in Gnomish. Jeffrey knew Gnomish. He knew Common and Gnomish. That was it. So he would yell at them in Gnomish that he knew what they were up to and to stay away from him. He got kicked out of a couple of places. He also did not have a very good filter. So he said things to people way too often that made people not like the party. For example, there was a dwarf selling weapons and stuff named Littlefoot, and he was a dwarf with massive feet. And Jeffrey made the comment that he had awfully big feet for somebody named Littlefoot and got kicked out of the blacksmiths. And to him, he had not said anything wrong. He just was pointing out the obvious. Later in the campaign, Jeffrey got a lot more fun to play. Initially, I had asked the DM if we could have Jeffrey exit the campaign somehow and me play another character, because the character was getting a little too stale for me. But then he kind of got to show his strengths off a lot. And I think the DM did an amazing job making that happen. For example, there was some torture scenes where he was trying to get information out of people and really relishing in that. There was a moment where they were torturing somebody and the guy wasn't giving information. So Jeffrey asked him if he had a family, if he had a wife and kids. And the guy said yes. And he's like, okay, so what do you want me to tell them when you don't make it out of this? And then the guy spilled the beans. Jeffrey was incredible at intimidation and became a very fun character to play. Things started to get more complicated later in the campaign, when Jeffrey's signet ring got replaced by another signet ring. So Jeffrey was wearing this signet ring, which turned out to not have any importance to him. He thought it looked nice, so he put it on his hand. In a dungeon that belonged to a fiend, like it was a tomb of a fiend, like a pit fiend, I think, he found another signet ring. And he put it on because it looked cooler. It was just this nice red signet ring, or red gemstone signet ring, and it looked nice. So Jeffrey took it because Jeffrey was a little bit greedy, and his greed got him in trouble a couple of times. So he took this signet ring and put it on his hand. And then over time, with each monster and enemy that he slayed, Jeffrey's arm, his right arm, started to become more scaly. And then eventually, he almost had a full-fledged demon arm that was giving him strength bonuses. So Jeffrey didn't tell anybody. He bought some really good gloves to cover his hand up. He kept his sleeves wore down, and he didn't tell anybody about the demon arm. It was such a cool thing that the DM incorporated, and I was super happy about it. And the implication was that if Jeffrey were to continue slaying so many people, Jeffrey would become a demon. And it never made it that far. And then the campaign, near the end, he lost the demon arm. It didn't get taken off, but he lost the demon arm to a magical effect. And that was that. But it was a really cool twist for his character. Jeffrey also wore a beanie because a character had cut his hair in the middle of the night. So he was bald at one point of the campaign. So he wore a gray beanie. He bought a few extra ones because the beanies were getting damaged while they were adventuring. But he wore a gray beanie most of the time. And for the entire campaign almost, he used a flame tongue, which was a great forced sword for a beginning D&D player. There wasn't anything too complicated about it. The catchphrase was flame on, like the Human Torch. And he just used his fire sword. And because it was magical fire, there were moments where, they were in the water and stuff, and he was using it to light the way. Jeffrey couldn't swim very well because of heavy armor, but he gave it his best. There was also a moment where his greed got the best of him because he took a coin out of a chest. He was notorious for stealing as soon as he found anything instead of telling the party about it. And that coin ended up being cursed, and eventually enveloped all of his gold. So he had taken this coin, and it was pretty much eating the other coins in his bag. So the next time he checked his bag, he was missing a lot of gold pieces. And I really like how the DM did that too. I was a new player, and he was teaching me in a lot of ways that actions in D&D have a lot of consequences. And I loved that. Jeffrey was also, for no apparent reason, voluntarily celibate. It didn't really come up in the campaign, but he brought it up a lot. He brought it up. It didn't come up much, but he brought it up more than he needed to. But overall, I loved playing Jeffrey. I will never play another champion fighter because I'm not a huge fan of fighters. Even though my current character is an Echo Knight, because I think the Echo Knight has been kind of fun so far. But I'll never play another champion fighter. And I don't think I'll play another human. I like the fantasy races too much, but I do think a human is a good starting point for any D&D player. I did want to take a moment to talk about Jeffrey's design. So he is wearing chainmail. You see that signet ring on his right hand. He's holding the flame tongue. He has a studded shield on his back. Otherwise, he's wearing pretty simple, like boots and trousers. He has a scar over his left eye from a fight. And there is his signature beanie and gloves and signet ring. That right arm was becoming demonic, but I couldn't find a good way to do that in Hero Forge. I like to make all of my minis in Hero Forge. I think they do an amazing job with miniatures. And I love just making them partially to see how I feel about the character and how the character is designed. I would love to, as this channel grows, commission more art of different characters instead of using like video from Hero Forge. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions about Jeffrey, let me know. If you want to comment your first D&D character, I would love to hear it because I think it is so interesting. I do not know if I brought this up. Jeffrey was named after Jeffrey Dahmer, the people Dahmer. That's what I call him. Because I wanted to keep with that like sadistic trait of his, and I could not think of a good name for this character. So I named him Jeffrey after Jeffrey Dahmer. If you did like this video, please leave a like. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. I would love to go over all of the D&D characters I've played. I think there's probably like 6 or 7. It's not too many. And then if you want to see these videos as they're released, hit that notification bell. Other than that, I hope everybody is having an amazing day. I hope everybody has a magical day. And until next time, peace.